Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. First item is discuss the formal agenda.
I'm Chuck Worth. I'm gonna have Terry Hendricks come up, Public Works Director, just to talk for a couple
Oh,
minutes.
yes, yeah.
Just
please.
to talk for a couple minutes about the weather event that we might be getting and just the preparation that Public Works is doing.
Napa has high expectations.
Mirror the weather.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Good evening.
Public Works Director, yeah.
Good evening. We are expecting snow above 500 feet over the next 2 days, with it to really come down Friday night into Saturday. And then after that, the precipitation is predicted to dry up, and then it'll be dry for the next 4 days. But we're going to have extremely low temperatures for around here. We're going to be low to mid 20s Sunday through Tuesday, with the highs of mid 30s. And so Public Works is there. We're after yesterday, we were geared up, and we were out plowing snow and out early and getting the snow plowed. And as soon as the precipitation lets up, then we'll be going out and trying to manage the ice as best we can with mag chloride, trying to get it melted off the road so that everybody has access. So hopefully the weather will do as predicted, because I think we're really ready for it, but the temperatures will be considerably colder than we're used to.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions for a Public Works Director?
The only other thing I would add is that the EOC has been activated. They're just in kind of a monitoring stage right now. And if things happen and they get reports, then they can always amp up to either a partial or a full activation. So I think we're doing what we can, and we'll just wait and see what happens. So.
Well, we really appreciate all you're doing, and thanks to your team that we're prepared for this, and pass along to Justin that we really appreciate the updates and his communications about the weather and other updates. So,
Thank you. I'll pass it along to our crew.
yeah, thank you so much.
And Justin would have been here tonight, but he's parenting tonight. Some parenting duty.
All right, yeah, glad we had that update. Any discussion on the formal agenda?
No discussion for me.
Commissioner Thompson?
No, I just, you heard the reason I'm not there, which is weather conditions. I'm between medical appointments. It's just standard maintenance, preventative maintenance. But I am not safe traveling, so I'm not there, but I'm here virtually. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Completely understood, and safety first. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Okay, we'll move on to the topics on our work session. Discuss the formal agenda, fiscal year 23-24 financial forecast, and fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget. And we'll be discussing the policy on page 4, and Andrew Sullivan is here.
So I'm gonna say a few words first. So we're approaching everything just a little bit different every year. We kind of learn from the previous years, and then we have the HCP overlay too. And so we're happy to have Andrew on our team as we go through this. But as we talk about the budget policies for this year, which are going to inform the development of the 24-25 budget, we wanted to tell you and show you up front where we are financially before we adopt the budget policies, which we haven't done that before. But I think it's important as we move ahead, because the budget policies will make a lot more sense if you see what our financial condition is. And so after this, we will be back in front of your board giving you the quarterly update, which will be a financial update of the entire county. So, but I think this is an important presentation, just so you know, as we go into the first year of considering HCP as a factor, even though we're not going to see the impacts of it this year, about how things look. Because part of my goal is to always have a runway. We want to have enough of a reserve to have a runway that if something happens, we have time to adjust.
Absolutely.
And so the longer the runway, the better at this point, because we have a lot of uncertainty. So go ahead, Andrew.
Thanks, County Manager. So about half of my intro.
Sorry about that. I always do that.
So again, thank you for having me here. So just to kind of piggyback on, what County Manager Boone was referring to as far as reviewing the forecast for the current year and what we're kind of anticipating for the outlying years. Most notably, the HCP. I think you have it in front of you, the financial report. Looking at the current year and into next year, I think the underlying theme that we're trying to address is more or less of a status quo budget going into next year. Fairly conservative, some plans for major projects. With the implication being, if we were to suggest that in fiscal year 26, the HCP will start to take effect, I mean, obviously fairly straightforward, that revenue stream is going to start to dry up. They'll start to eat into our fund balance. And then all of a sudden our, the percentage that we need to adhere to based on policy, that 20 to 30%, we're going to get much closer and closer to that. So that was probably the biggest informative piece as we look towards the proposed budget policies and to obtain any feedback from you folks.
So I'm just gonna walk through a couple more, if you don't mind.
No,
Andrew.
please.
So, you know, we're in the 23-24 year, and as you look at this, and I actually have one of the older versions, but I wanted to borrow your. As you look at the revised version, we are anticipating ending the 23-24 year with a little bit of a surplus, which is in that column there. We've had other years, if you look back, where we've been in a deficit spending. There was $1.183 million one year, $320,000 the next. We anticipate, if all things happen the way that we expect them to, that we'd be at a little bit of a surplus this year. All of that's very common, and that's why you have reserves, because we have so many revenue sources and they're all fairly elastic. I mean, one of the ones that isn't is really property taxes, but obviously hotel motel tax is very elastic. And so what this shows you is that the county has been managed very efficiently over these previous years. As we look into 24-25, we have the ACP. It's not gonna, I mean, the Department of Forestry has given us revenue estimates for 24-25. They're not what they have been recently, but they're not at the low point of what they would be with the ACP. So we're factoring those numbers into the 24-25 projections. What we don't know is what's exactly going to happen after that. And so what this shows you right now is that although we have a fund balance goal of 20 to 30%, we're sitting at around 50% right now. And again, that was by design to give us more runway. If we have the 15% decrease, you end the 25-26 with all other things being equal, about 46. If it was 25% reduction, you end up at 44, and so on. So you can see where you're going to lose fund balance, all other things being equal, fairly rapidly. I mean, it's not going to happen in 1 year because by design, the runway. But it is going to have a quick impact. And we're talking, again, for the general fund, about $1.5 million to $2 million a year. So those are the things that we're going to have to really work through as we move forward is what is the actual impact? What's the timing of the actual impact? And then what are the levers that we're going to pull to maintain the solvency of the organization and providing critical services to the public. And so when I look at it, we're as positioned as good as any, CFTLC county, but we're also the one that's going to get hit the biggest. Right. And so that's why, as we talk about the budget policies, what we're saying in the budget policies, it's another status quo year. We don't see ourselves adding staff, paying for all of our current costs, but not doing anything more. And that's just I think we have to do that again for a while until we see how all this plays out. So, Commissioner.
The other thing, when I reviewed this earlier, the only question came to mind is, what about the ripple effect? Where, you know, ACP goes into full effect, we lose how many hundred thousand? We lose businesses, the economic factors that'll ripple down, then obviously will affect revenue for the city, for the county. So not only the timber revenues will be lower, but you know, gross revenues will be lower in general. So how do we factor that in, and how do we accommodate and still provide all the essential services this county needs?
And what I would say, Commissioner, at this time, it's hard for us to really quantify all those. I mean, I think that one of the backbones of the general fund is property taxes. And, you know, that has been stable with, you know, usually a 3 to 5% growth every year, depends on new construction. So that provides some stability for us, but obviously if there was a major economic downturn, then you look at all those really elastic revenue sources, and some of that is even from the state, because when the state gets hit, they also hit the counties. And so there is a lot of unknowns still, and that's why, again, given all the unknowns, I think having the runway that we do is the most pragmatic thing, and not getting into a spending position too early. Because once you get into it, then what I think none of us want to do is to have to deconstruct the organization. Because when people, you know, when there's job losses, when there's less revenue coming into those critical services, that's when people need us the most. And so we have to be prepared to be there when people need us the most. And so, you know, I don't want to see us have to reduce any services that are the critical services that the community relies upon, which I am proud to say that's what we provide. You know, we provide the essential services that make a difference in the community. And so that's what my obsession is to make sure that we stay strongly positioned to provide those. And this is not just me. I mean, this is a partnership with the sheriff. It's a partnership with all of our department directors. It's a partnership, obviously, with the board, because the things we do are too important. And, you know, we value that, but I don't think the state always values that as we're talking about revenues. And you can talk about beyond the HCP, you can talk about revenues, I mean, funding for community corrections. It's a vital program. It's been underfunded for a long time. We need the state's help to provide funding for it right now. We are doing it in whatever ways we can because we value the service. But it's going to take different partnerships with the state to make rural governments work if the rural economy is not one that the state's going to support. So it's just going to be challenging, and we don't have all the answers yet. And I don't think we're going to have all the answers for a number of years. So
My concern is, like I said, I like more runway as well.
yeah, runway.
You know, we want to make sure we're doing, you know, we're being responsible for our community, and I don't think we can rely upon any, you know, the state says they'll fill the gaps. I don't think we could rely on any of that. If they can't even fund their own Department of Forestry after this goes through. So I don't think we could utilize or expect that as a cushion. So the more we do internally, and you know, the tighter our belts are today, we can help offset that future and not lose essential services to the community.
Yeah, because one thing that I think I'll just speak for Clatsop County, but I know historically rural counties have felt the same way, is that you can't make up lost revenues of this nature through local fees and local taxation. It's not possible. And so your only choice is to manage your way out of it without relying upon a big, you know, subvention from the state. And so, you know, that's what we're going to have to do. There are some things that the county board has authority over that we may come to you about, like transient lodging and other things, because there are some things that may make sense for us to leverage differently going forward, whether the state supports us in our, you know, legislative goals. And so So yeah, I mean, this is, again, I wish that we had all the answers and I wish we knew exactly what levers were gonna need to be pulled and when they were gonna need to be pulled, but we don't know. So the flexibility to buy us time is what is vitally important right now. So I'm happy where we are, but that's just a point in time. And it's gonna go down. So this is the high water mark. It's only gonna go down. So,
Commissioner Thompson has had her hand up there. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I share Commissioner Toyoka's concerns in that we've already seen the Hampton Mill announcing a closure in Banks. And then when I read the rest of our board packet tonight, and we have all of these recommendations to fundamentally to spend money on environmental concerns without the, I would say, the support for a strong local economy, because depending on the state for a handout is a sorry way to go at things. A majority of the legislators are from urban areas. Those areas are awash in cash. We are not. It's hard for them to contemplate the financial reality that we face here. I think we have to keep going with that and with educating them, with informing them, with partnering with them and explaining our situation. For example, at AOC Monday, Commissioner Scar said, I cannot in good conscience support anything that would spend more Tillamook County money because we don't have it. I could only echo that comment. And the third point is, this doesn't consider the FEMA buy-up, which also could have an extremely detrimental effect on our economic situation in Clatsop County. So yes, we have time to prepare, but our response has to be considered and focused, and I would hope unanimous. So I hope we can move along together in that coordinated fashion. And I appreciate the good work of all the financial folk who have been so careful about spending over the years. I also appreciate the hard work of every private sector company that has produced the revenue that has yielded the money we have now. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Thompson. I completely agree with you. I really appreciate that our staff has always taken a conservative approach, long-term, pragmatic approach to budgeting year after year. And it has put us in this position to be able to weather the storm. Commissioner Bennett.
My comments are twofold. I'm happy to see us being proactive in a situation where we have zero control over the outcome of a decision being made. I would like to try to provide our small taxing districts with a chance to be able to do the same. And I know long ago in history, probably my first year, we were talking about overlays of the HCAs on top of our taxing jurisdictions. And if we could circle back to that and figure out which taxing districts are going to be hit the hardest in order to have conversations with them, because it's not going to be equal across our county. It's going to be a very pick and choose of who gets hit the most. And then to circle to, then how to help them. I think that is going to have to be our next conversation. Because this will completely defund some taxing districts. So yeah, I would just like to be able to identify for them so that they can be sitting in this position and try to be more proactive moving forward. And then I will voice something that I am so very, and it is the fact that the Department of Forestry is not having these conversations. They are not, they are not showing, they're still in a spending phase. They are not being fiscally responsible with their budgets, and absolutely enrages me that they will now go in 2024, this year, asking for money from legislature in order to bail themselves out from a situation that they put themselves in. And I just needed to verbalize that because I am angry about it. We just had 58 people lose a job in a neighboring county at the Banks Mill. And that could have been fully prevented had this plan been written with stakeholders involved. So anyhow, thank you for that moment to vent a little bit.
No, I think, well, I appreciate your comment, Commissioner Banks. It was very good testimony at the Board of Forestry. It really pushed back on the Department of Forestry's contention that there were no other options. There are other options. We have proposed those other options, and I think others have as well. And I think it really is something that the Board of Forestry needs to heed. You had mentioned that maybe the Board of Forestry might come to Astoria, and I think that would be the first step in speaking to some of the people that are going to be impacted by this decision.
As an anecdote, it's funny, I had a constituent come and talk to me about what's going on and what we're trying to do, and I explained, Commissioner Bang's active role and, the pushback we are providing. And the statement to me was made as the Department of Forestry right now is like cancer. It's killing its host.
Yes.
It's growing and festering, but it's killing its host. And it won't survive because it is destroying the host. And they like it, and they're in the forestry business, but I thought it was kind of amusing that they put that, that anecdote together about how it is consuming itself. And they're not even really paying attention that they're looking for a bailout, like Commissioner Banks says, and not internally focused on how do we become self-sustaining, how do we be responsible.
Yeah, and I agree, opening it up to other, like the special districts and other entities that are going to be impacted by this. And, giving them the opportunity to see how this is going to impact them. I think that's very important.
And we can look at the ACAs and
Yeah,
plot them and see
I like
which
that.
taxing
And I know
jurisdictions.
it's not the best information that has been provided to us by ODF by any stretch of the imagination, but we can probably come to a guesstimate of which taxing districts are going to be the most impacted.
Yeah, we have overlays at the taxing districts. All we need is just the ACA areas.
Hard to do without that.
About that, so, and it has been requested. It has been requested. So anyhow, thank you.
Do you have anything else? I'm sorry, I kind of. No, we're speaking my thoughts on agreeing with everyone, the underlying message of being, which what the county's already been doing all this time, being financially prudent.
Yeah.
I think the idea that there's something can save us, we're not gonna wait, we're gonna be proactive and make some more decisions along the way. So that, again, just kind of informs when we start looking at the upcoming annual budget process and the budget policies that we have in place right now. I think there's a whole lot of change, and any of the adjustments that were made only speak to what we've all been talking about, being conservative and very mindful and monitoring it all throughout the year and really give that information.
I agree. Commissioner Banks.
Just one other comment, we can't share a lot about the small table discussions that I'm having with the governor's office. But what I can share is that there is no set anything for this next, for the 2024 legislative session. We are still in discussions and, with no, we haven't even settled on a variety of ideas to present to the counties, because this will at the end of the day have to go to the vote of the CFTLC counties. And we haven't even settled on, we're still throwing out ideas. And the problem is it's hard to create money without a source. So where is the money gonna come from is the question that I keep asking. Because if you don't have a funding source, there is no money produced to be then distributed. And we look at, our schools are underfunded. We look at every social service that is already underfunded. And so can I in good conscience point at a source and say, please take money from that source? I cannot do that. And so that's where I'm at personally, is that there is no money without a source. And so I'm at a absolute stump, because I would really love somebody to just pop out of the woodwork and give me another source. So anyhow, those are
Yeah, and
further thoughts to share.
And for the member of the board, if I may, I think that's, it's interesting that the state has been looking for some assistance to identify what those sources are. I think though that, when you look at the relationship between states and county government, especially within Oregon, is that as much as they're based on partnership, that partnership definitely has some boundaries to it and some limitations, and we see it all the time when there are good faith agreements and good faith efforts made that then over time slowly deteriorate and become something else. And I've mentioned corrections as just one example, public health funding. There's a lot of examples that is, and I think we have another one now where if there is a state interest to manage the forest differently, then the state has to come up with a strategy of funding the lost revenue for the taxing agencies. And because they're saying that there's a state interest that overrides the trust and the county's interests that are in the trust. And and that's what I've told them too, is, we can't come up with a solution on the funding side. They need to come up with a solution because they need to be committed to it for at least a generation. I mean,
No commitment.
so we'll see. We'll see where that goes, but that's going to be the ultimate value, is how, if this is an important statewide, value proposition to manage the forest differently, then you have to deal with the local impacts. So.
And I will reiterate that at the end of the day, and at the end of these conversations, we'll have another discussion next week. There's literally nothing to report. And that is heartbreaking, because I had a lot of hope, and I still have hope. That hope won't go away, but there's nothing to report. No bailout as of yet.
Well, I'm very confident in the arguments that we put forward. I thought the testimony was very good at the Board of Forestry. And I think that our county manager, Mr. Bang, others have really put a number of proposals before the governor's office and the Board of Forestry to help, to assist them in trying to find a solution. The only thing we can do at this point is continue to stay in front of the Board of Forestry, continue to stay in front of the governor's office, and hopefully they'll be able to find something that'll be a suitable resolution to the issue. But it's unfortunate that we don't have anything to report this evening, but there's nothing else we can do but continue to hammer on it. And we will. And Andrew, thank you very much for
Absolutely.
what you're doing. I really do appreciate the conservative budgeting year after year. It started. Monica did a fantastic job always doing that. It's more necessary now than ever. Yeah, thank you for all you're doing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And next is board topics for discussion. Before we get into that, I just want to mention that we do have a couple of executive session items this evening, and it might be good to do these right after our work session and before our regular meeting.
I concur.
Okay, Kurt?
Get out of here sooner, sorry.
Rather than waiting till the end of our regular meeting and doing it. So, yeah, we have the opportunity.
We will be quick, so we will be quick.
Okay, board topics for discussion.
I have a
Commissioner Bang.
So I spoke with you about this, earlier this week, but I have a task force idea. In order to better utilize the coordinated muscle movement. We have a lot of topics on our plate this year. And moving into 2024, moving through, we're already in it. The HCP, the FEMA buyout. I think that we need to sit down and create some coordinated muscle movement in regards to talking points and summaries. It would be best if, as commissioners and as, anybody else who wants to testify in front of a board or a committee, that we all have the same, I don't know, mission in mind, that is one of county success and wellness. So it's just a task force idea, or we could call it whatever. But I do think that we need to sit down and coordinate our talking points, and have a time for us to be able to ask questions of each other. Because like FEMA buyout, that's probably another 1,200-page thing, and I really don't want to read it. So I've read my 1,200 pages. I would like to be able to lean upon somebody else that has, more knowledge than I in that situation, but also be able to use my voice to help elevate Clatsop County. Those are my thoughts.
And I think that that's a great idea, Commissioner Banks, and I told you that, so when I talked to you, Commissioner Thompson, you have your hand up?
Oh, I do, because here I am sitting here thinking, man, I think there's an elephant in this room and I just want to talk about it. I thought when this board met in December and I heard the conversations in the room that we as a board were united. The morning of the Board of Forestry meeting, I received an email with testimony from one of my colleagues that was radically different from what I had heard in our group discussion. You know, we're all independently elected officials. We can't control what each other says or does. But I found it heartbreaking. I found it trust destroying. I found it disheartening. And fundamentally, I was confused about the thought process that produced one discussion as we met together and then another piece of testimony in the public forum. I don't know how we deal with this, but please, I think we have to. Anything less destroys trust in what we're doing together among us and with the public and with staff. I don't have an answer, but I see that issue. And if that dovetails with your suggestion, Commissioner Bangs, I hope it does, because I need us to do something about this.
Well, I agree, Commissioner, Commissioner, you can ask, but I think you're correct, Commissioner Thompson. I too was surprised by the testimony at the Board of Forestry, and I did think we were all on the same page. We had talked about this many times. And we've had several letters that have gone out where all the board members have agreed to it. So I do think that maybe this is a solution that we can get everybody coordinated and be on the same page and make sure that we're speaking with one voice, and maybe not necessarily one voice. I think it's also good when you're testifying that people are providing multiple points and not saying the same things over and over, but you're actually providing different facets of some of the same arguments that that we did hear during that meeting. So I love the task force idea. I think it's a good one. I think Commissioner Banks should chair the task force and bring the community together, because this is something we're going to be dealing with for a while. This isn't just waiting for the decision from the Board of Forestry. This is what we do after this decision and beyond. So yeah, I love the idea, and I would full on support it. The logistics of how we set it up, we still have to discuss, and who's all going to be a part of that. But it's definitely a good first step.
And just to agree with Commissioner Thompson, you spoke my inside voice on my thoughts and feelings, though mine were probably a little bit more descriptive in how I felt about that situation. I am pretty baffled of how an individual who is supposed to be a representative of our community has chosen to take the side that will defund our community and our sheriff's department and a majority of our social service. So I'm still struggling with that. I'm struggling with that mindset. But I will circle back to, at the beginning of the day, everything that we as a board, as a group, have been requesting and all agreed upon is a compromise. We haven't asked for no HCP. We've asked for compromise, discussion, relationship. And I think that we should continue to request those things: compromise, relationship, work with us. allow us to be a part of the decision-making process, take our cares and concerns into consideration. And so I think that we will obviously continue forward with that, and, and to circle back to something that, county manager stated was that the ODF and the Board of Forestry continually uses a phrase that says, this is as good as we can possibly get. And there is actually an option in the HCP that is better for us economically. And I don't know why everyone's forgotten that that option exists, but it is there. It's still there. And if there is something better available, I'm hoping that they'll start changing that talking point, is what I'm hoping, and actually start legitimately looking at that as an option, because that would have a better economic outcome for us here in our community. So compromise, meet in the middle. I think it's possible, so thank you.
And I was pleased that there was some pushback
Yes.
when the board member was saying this is the best we can do. You know, you had some of our, the representatives saying that is not true. Then I challenged it. Commissioner Thompson.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to end on a little more humorous note. I want to tell you that I think economists are moral people as well as conservationists. And I think that people who work in the natural resources industries are also conservationists, not just urban service level conservationists. Thank you.
Well said. Completely agree. Do we have any other board topics for discussion? Then we'll go ahead and move. Did you have anything? Oh, no.
Done.
Did you have?
I wrote a letter to you and CC county manager on it, on my feelings on some of these topics, and you can take it for appropriate action. The biggest thing I'd hope is, you know, when we were all elected, we took an oath basically to serve this community, and we're apolitical in this nature. There should be. And when things come out of from any member of us that are political in nature, it's disappointing, because I would like us to always be that, you know, voice for the community, not a political voice. We're trying to do the best we can for everyone, you know, and I don't care if it's DRI, whatever your party affiliation. The minute we swore in, we said we would serve this entire community. And so those wraps come off, and we just serve the people, period.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Jim, glad we went back.
What's that?
I'm glad we went back to you.
Me too, because that's another inside voice.
I completely agree. Okay, we'll go